so much at stake for the president's legislative agenda. There's this blistering Wall Street Journal editorial out this morning that assails President Trump's credibility and suggests that most Americans may conclude that he is a fake president. We are in day 62 of the Trump presidency, so let's begin our coverage with Suzanne Malveaux. She is live on Capitol Hill. Give us the latest, Suzanne.
Good morning, Allison. Well, the bill goes to the House Rules Committee today before it's expected to go to the full House for a vote tomorrow. And despite the fact that the Republicans in the Senate and the House sides who are calling to delay this vote, the president is pushing this to pass urgently because he wants a big win.
It really is a crucial vote for the Republican Party and for the people of our country.
In the most important political test of his presidency yet, President Trump in full sell mode, twisting the arms of skeptical Republican House members to vote yes on the bill to repeal and replace Obamacare.
The American people gave us clear instructions. It's time to get busy, get to work, and to get the job done.
The president testing out his own brand of deal-making in a closed-door meeting on Capitol Hill. GOP members giving Trump a standing ovation, party loyalists gushing.
The president just came here and knocked the ball out of the park.
Alternately using humor, threats, and public shaming to sell the American Health Care Act to his own party. The president warning House members they could lose their seats next year if the bill doesn't pass.
I think there's going to be a price to be paid, but it's going to be with their own voters.
President Trump even calling out the chairman of the conservative House Freedom Caucus, Mark Meadows, for publicly denouncing the bill. The president cautioning Meadows, "I'm coming after you." But Meadows and others are still a hard no.
There still are not enough votes to pass this particular bill.
The president did a great job, and I appreciate the president, but the bill is still bad.
Even after tweaks were made to the bill to appeal to more conservative and moderate Republicans.
What I don't get is the impetus that this must be done right now on Thursday, some sort of do or die date. It's not.
The House bill needs 216 votes to pass and no more than 21 no votes from Republicans. So far, by CNN's count, there are 19 Republicans voting no, 7 that are still on the fence. The Senate leadership, the Republican leadership, including Senator John Cornyn, who I spoke with yesterday, are expressing confidence. They think it can get through the House, and they are eager to get their hands on it next week. Allison, Chris.
Okay, Suzanne, thank you very much for all of that. Let's discuss it with our panel. We want to bring in politics editor for The Root and professor of politics and journalism at Morgan State University, Jason Johnson, CNN political analyst and Washington bureau chief for the Daily Beast, Jackie Kucinich, and CNN political analyst and New York Times deputy culture editor, Patrick Healy. Great to see all of you. Patrick, I'll start with you. This is the first real test of President Trump's powers of persuasion, and it sounds like he has won a couple of no votes over. Darrell Issa, Tom McClintock have changed their votes, maybe either his charm or his strong arm tactics, whatever, it's working for them.
Yeah, and I think what he's winning on is the fact that the Republicans did very well for 4 or 6 years with repeal and replace Obamacare. That was their message more than anything else. Okay, now they have control of the entire government in Washington, D.C. Are they really going to let this first moment go away? The reality is President Trump, he can be a charismatic guy. I mean, he can go into a room, he can, jawbone lawmakers, but he also has the power. He also has the power to say, I can go to your districts. I won in Pennsylvania, and Ohio, and Indiana, and Michigan. I can go into your, into your wobbly districts, and I can make your life good, and I can give you a whole lot of heartburn. And he knows that, and they know that.
Well, Jackie, though, I mean, the reality is they came out of that meeting. They still don't have the votes. It seems that people were judging him as if it were a performance. Yeah, he did a great job. Bill still stinks. It seems like he was unable to move the needle for 2 reasons. What's your reporting on this? The one is, I don't know that they are respecting him the way they need to right now to just listen to a command from the commander-in-chief. And second, I don't know that the people who are no on this believe that Trump understands the bill enough to be compelling.
You know, I think, while Trump is a very powerful messenger, I think the person that really has been doing the legwork on this is Mike Pence, the vice president, because they do respect him. That said, what Trump is not calculating, and what you didn't hear yesterday, is how many calls that a lot of these members are getting from their district in support of their no position. This is also a caucus that is used to getting their way. Let's not forget, it wasn't that long ago that they helped oust Speaker Boehner. So they have seen through their actions that sometimes when they stonewall, they end up getting their way. So they really, if you look at it from the Freedom Caucus's perspective, there really isn't a lot of incentive there in terms of their constituents and recent past to change their vote, other than making this president happy. But if they feel like they're going to get backlash the other way going home, why would they do that?
Jason, what do you think?
Yeah, I agree. You know, this is partially kind of a miscalculation on the part of President Trump, and partially it's the reality on the ground. On the one hand, you wouldn't have such a slim margin of error if the president hadn't already shot himself in the foot with 4 votes, right? He took out Tom Price, Mulvaney, Pompeo. He took members, Republican members, who would have been yes votes and already threw them in his administration. He could have waited and he could have had those 4 votes. But the second thing is this: the consequences of this bill are going to be felt by members of Congress. President Trump isn't running again for 4 years. If people get thrown off their health care, he's going to have time to clean this up. These members of Congress aren't, and they're not going to vote for a bill that's not going to be absolutely something that's going to benefit them in 14 months when they have to run again in 2018.
But, Chris, to your point about the credibility of President Trump, I mean, these House lawmakers, they've got a policy mechanic like Paul Ryan, who they know knows the nuances, knows the details. They've never seen Trump as someone who was going to sort of go in and say, okay, I understand how, if we repeal and replace Obamacare, this funding apparatus is going to kick in that's going to make it more accessible, in these 4 states. This is politics. They are focused on, can they vote no on this bill and go back this summer to a town hall meeting where they've had, President Trump visit their district and go after them and be able to say, well, I finally had my one shot to repeal and replace Obamacare, and I decided not to take it because I was sort of, holding out for some details, because a perfect bill will always happen in D.C.
I don't know that they are on the same page of motivations. I mean, what I keep hearing is from those who are resistant on the bill is, I'm not in a rush. Right. I'm not in a rush. This is an existential question for me. If I get this wrong, Trump is right. Everybody's right. If I get it wrong, I'm going to have trouble at home. But nobody's saying to me, get it done now. That's about Trump wanting a big win, isn't it?
Right. And the Republicans spent 8 years, making hay off of running against Obamacare. It's not like it's a loser for them.
Jackie, I mean, what President Trump is also saying is we need to do this so then we can get to the good stuff. The tax reform, the stuff that everybody's waiting for. So let's get this done. And, that's one of the carrots that he's holding out.
And everyone knows that tax reform is such an easy topic to get through.
That's going to be tough,
That's why they've done it so many times. No, it's not going to be tax reform is going to be just as messy. Just as contentious. There are just as many sacred cows when you're talking about tax reform. It affects people's lives, not just like health care, but it's a complicated issue that has stymied both parties for a number of years. So if he thinks that's the land of milk and honey, he's got a little bit of a rude awakening if and when this does get through.
Well, literally a rude awakening this morning, Professor. The Wall Street Journal editorial, that's a publication not set up to be anti-Trump. They wrote an editorial where they say the president clings to his assertion, talking about the wiretapping, like a drunk to an empty gin bottle, rolling out his press spokesman to make more dubious claims. If Trump does not show more respect for the truth, most Americans may conclude he is a fake president. Your take?
I mean, he's not a fake president. He's living in the White House at least 5 days a week or so. Look, he's the president of the United States. I think that his credibility is already shot with a large number of Americans. He didn't win the majority of the vote. But at the end of the day, whether or not President Trump wants to continue with these lies about wiretapping or make other sort of promises and things he can't go through with, the calculation when it comes to a member of Congress, a sitting senator, a city congressperson is, how popular is this president in my district, and do I have to worry about his wrath. And there's some of them who are like, you know what, I'm so popular in my district, it doesn't matter if Trump has credibility. And there's some who are in some wobbly districts who are like, look, I can't afford to take a tweet from this guy. So I agree with some of the things the Wall Street Journal is saying, but the calculations have to do with all those individual members of Congress, and they're stacking the chips right now to see, am I stronger or is Trump stronger?
But Patrick, what about the very idea that it was the Wall Street Journal that gives this scathing editorial? I mean,
no, it's devastating. I mean, I think it's devastating. My colleague at the New York Times, David Leonhardt, had a column the other day basically saying our president is a liar. That column was built not on partisanship, but on a series of factual misrepresentations and misstatements, and we know that that is a very loaded word. Now, President Trump can dismiss the failing New York Times like he sort of likes to.
Although he's really boosted their bottom line by calling them that.
It helps a little bit. It helps a little bit. But what the Wall Street Journal, as we know, has been, a house organ for the Republican Party for decades, and a lot of Trump's Republican allies in New York City, around the country, internationally, read that page.
All right. Lady, gentlemen, thank you very much. We have other questions for you. There's more